What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with the Week 12 preview for the NFL season. A couple weeks off, I was on vacation, rested, refreshed, ready to dive right into Week 12. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. And I want to show you, I want to rely heavily on this tool that I've been using this week. This is kind of something I've been tweaking around all year long, and I really just have to button it up and get it out to the public. So keep an eye out for this, but basically just like a super duper cheat sheet that kind of looks at fantasy points on a pass attempt or a touch or a target basis. So what I like to do here is kind of shorten this up and just kind of look at maybe the last 4 weeks, right? So weeks 8 through 11, let's talk about those players. And we're going to start with quarterbacks, and I will start with the most expensive guys here and talk about what's interesting. This is for the main slate, so there's no Thanksgiving games on here. No Sunday night, no Monday night. This is the Millie Maker slate. There's 10 games, 20 teams. And actually, before I do that, I'll just kind of flip over to the other side here. You know, here's the totals, right? Here are the implied totals for each one of these teams. The Colts have the highest implied total on the board, 30.5 points. And then you get Tampa Bay, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Ravens to round out the top 5. And then I have this chart here that kind of also shows pace, right? So we're looking for fast teams. So the fastest game of the week is Cleveland and Cincinnati, followed by New England and the New York Jets. So that's kind of what I'm referencing when I go through this. All right, so quarterbacks. Tom Brady is the most expensive quarterback on the slate, but I don't think we really need to go there. I'm turning my attention outside of guys we'll talk about in a second to Andrew Luck. If you look at Luck, he's averaging 0.78, so basically 3/4 of a DraftKings point for every pass attempt in the last 4 weeks. Remember, there was a time, 5-6 weeks into the season, he was on pace to break the passing attempt record this season. That's probably not going to happen anymore because he's only thrown 35, 37 times over the course of the last few weeks, but he's been much more efficient. Probably because Marlon Mack has given the Colts a run game that they can actually take out. And it's amazing what happens that when you have a run game, you don't need to throw the ball 60 times. Andrew Luck has still been just as effective. And he's going up against a Miami defense here that's kind of been deceptively bad. So they're right here in the middle of the pack in the course of the last 4 weeks. Aaron Rodgers got them, Deshaun Watson got them, and then they faced Sam Darnold as well. So Miami better on paper season long than they are this week. And Luck is just one of these guys who's going to play in a fast-paced game. He's scored no less than 22 DraftKings points in any of the last 7 games. So we're gonna focus our attention there. And then there's 2 guys that I think are going to be really popular amongst the rest of the league that we should probably talk about. Jameis Winston right here at $6,000. About 5.58 DraftKings points per pass attempt, which is not great. I mean, it's basically what Eli Manning does. But there's a lot more upside in Jameis Winston, right? You can take the 2 interceptions or 3 interceptions that he might throw, but he also might throw 4 or 5 touchdowns. 350 yards of offense is certainly within his range of outcomes, and he's playing in. This is the highest total game on the board. 55 points from Las Vegas, and Tampa Bay is the second highest implied total. That's a lot. 55 points spread, 55 point over under, 3.5 point spread. San Francisco and Tampa Bay both expected to score a lot of points here, and that's going to start with Winston. Nick Mullins also, a really good value option who I'll have exposure to on the other side of that. And then there's Lamar Jackson. So Lamar Jackson here, obviously he does not have as many pass attempts. This is kind of a gimmicky situation that we have to be a little bit, cautious about. But 27 rush attempts last week. Okay, Lamar Jackson. I tweeted out a chart about this. In the last 4 years, I think the most rushing attempts any quarterback had ever done was like 13. And Lamar Jackson has a 27 rush attempt game. Probably not expecting that every single week, But even with what he did, his performance last week, it was 19 pass attempts, it was 150 yards, and it was 27 rush attempts, was basically the worst possible fantasy outcome he could have had. He scored 0 touchdowns. That much usage is going to lead to scoring, and this is the week to do it. Oakland is so bad. Most teams, I would be concerned that they could see this scheme on film one time, see Lamar Jackson, and kind of shut this down. But I have no faith in John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders to figure that out. And I do quickly want to show you the production shares here. So this is from DFSOnDemand.com. That's my site. If we go to the Ravens and just go to week 11, let's just look at this last week. Lamar Jackson, 27 rushing attempts, and then Gus Edwards, 17. So 34 rush attempts between those two guys and all of the pass attempts. This would be a sneaky little stack, which is a good segue into running backs, because Gus Edwards is, oh my God, I think he's $3,600 this week. He's the ultimate value, but his range of outcomes is so large, right? So Gus Edwards, he's kind of handcuffed to Lamar Jackson. These two are probably going to play well together, or they're going to fail together, or they're going to succeed together. But you're going to get two guys who you can kind of combine for less than $10,000 and tap into basically an entire team's offense, for lack of a better term. It's almost like rostering two running backs. He comes a lot in those special packages, but again, I would not be surprised to see him get 5 rush attempts. I would not be surprised to see him get 25 rush attempts. So I think he's a high risk play, but there's plenty of other places that you can, he's $3,400 or $3,600. It's not too big of a concern on my end here. All right, we'll go back to the top here for running backs, and to me, Saquon's the guy, right? I'm willing to pay up for it. He's basically averaging 1 DraftKings point per touch over his last 75 touches over the last 4 weeks. Normally, we would look at a running back on a 6-point dog and be a little bit concerned about that, but Saquon is used every way, right? He's got more receptions than Alvin Kamara this year. Eagles defense is allowing every single running back to scorch them. Here's the last couple of weeks. Alvin Kamara put 17 points on them. Mark Ingram, another 25. Zeke put 39 on them. It just has not been a good run for Philadelphia, and they're going to be even more decimated than usual on the defensive side of the ball this week. It's just all the Saquon all the time. And then we have a really interesting situation right here where it's like McCaffrey, Connor, James White. Those 3 guys, I'm pretty sure one of them is going to win somebody $1 million. I just don't know which one it is. And the reason I say that is because they're all kind of coming off of bad games. They're more buy low candidates than anything. So you're going to get one of these guys who has the opportunity to be the number 1 running back at the end of the day, and probably at a low ownership. I personally like James White. I think there is a natural recency bias of guys who had 1, a bad game, and 2, are coming off a bye, and James White matches both pieces of criteria. Now you're going to get 2 fast teams as the Jets and the Patriots get together, and James White, look at this, 1.5 fantasy points per touch here is basically, it's the highest rate of anyone with more than 22 touches over the course of the last 4 weeks. He has 42 of them. So really, when you get to anyone with a sample size, even coming off a bad game in week 10, James White is still the guy there, and I just really like that upside in that offense. I did run a little bit of analysis on Nick Chubb. So Chubb, let me see if I can pull him up here real quick. Yeah, this is a good visual. So what you're looking at now is the player profile of Nick Chubb, who, obviously was basically $3,500, $3,600, $3,700 the entire year. Carlos Hyde gets traded, and now it's the Nick Chubb show, and it really is. His DraftKings salary is up this week to, I believe, he's $6,300 or $6,400, and I'm not sure that's high enough for the amount of usage that he has been seeing. I'll pull up those production shares again because I think it's worth discussing really how much usage Nick Chubb has seen over the course of the last couple weeks. So let's see here. We'll just go to, I think it's probably a 2-week stretch, and we will go to Cleveland. Yeah, let's do this. And actually, we can probably do even more than that, right? It was basically week 7, I think they got rid of. Yeah, okay. So since week 7, which is when Chubb was kind of the starter, he has 78 rush attempts. He's basically seeing, especially in the last 2 weeks, 20 or 22 rushes. It's Nick Chubb with 78 rush attempts. The next guy on the Browns in terms of rushing attempts is Baker Mayfield with 10, and then Duke Johnson with 7. I mean, he is the only game in town. He's getting all the red zone looks, and he's capable of breaking big plays. The reason I don't really think this price is high enough yet is because I went back and I pulled the game logs for every running back who's ever seen 18 or more carries in the last 4 years. There's about 600 occurrences of this. Those players are averaging 19.8 DraftKings points. I would probably take that from Nick Chubb, and I think he has upside much, much higher than that. So I suspect he'll be very popular, but I think this is still a really good price. That Cincinnati defense, brutal. This is a sneaky game that I think can get a pretty big total come clock hitting 0. All right, wide receivers, and Odell Beckham at 8,800 leads the way, and this feels just like an absolute trap to me right here. Odell has had great results, but he's still very dependent on Eli Manning getting him the ball. He scored 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games, but only 8 total receptions. That's an efficiency, regression coming is what it feels like. I understand the Eagles secondary is completely decimated, but even with that, the Giants implied total is still only 20 points this week, which is the 5th worst on the slate. So this could absolutely burn me, but there's just something that's off about Beckham at $8,800 and being the chalkiest play of the week. It's just something that doesn't really add up for me compared to like what Vegas has on the board, and really his recent results might be a little better than we would expect from someone with as few catches as Odell Beckham has received. And then you kind of get into this range where you get both Pittsburgh. So actually, I can sort this by fantasy points per target, and the elite guys are really over 2. 2.5 is super good. 2 and 2.25 super good. 2.5 really good. And you start to get to these guys where you need to find sample sizes, right? So Beckham is 2.5. I'm looking at, both Pittsburgh receivers, and then basically Julian Edelman is the guy that I'm probably going to have the most exposure to. So Edelman is right here, 1.99 DraftKings points per target in the last month. He's basically Juju Smith-Schuster, right? So Juju Smith-Schuster is 2.09. Edelman is 1.99. Edelman's got 32 targets to Schuster's 30. So very, very similar numbers here. And Edelman is what, $500 cheaper? Again, another game with a fast pace, another game with a high total. You can see a trend here that the Patriots keep popping up on. But I think that's a pretty good spot to invest in Edelman. And then if you really want someone that I think can be a real good value here, it's Adam Humphries. So Adam Humphries is right here. Playing San Francisco. So here's San Francisco and Tampa Bay on the left-hand side here. 2 of the worst 5 teams in terms of fantasy points allowed per targets. That's to all pass catchers, but mostly wide receivers here, obviously, because they outnumber tight ends. And Humphries is averaging 2.53 So look at this. I mean, if you look at the last 4 weeks alone, Odell Beckham and Adam Humphries have the same number of targets. Odell Beckham and Adam Humphries have the same number of fantasy points per target. One is $8,800. One is $4,000. One has an implied team total of, and I'll get this right, make sure I have it, 20, the 5th worst, and one has an implied team total of 29.25, the 2nd best. So I'm willing to lock in on Humphries for $4,000. He has scored 15 or more DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4. And what I like is when Jameis Winston came back into the game last week for the 4th quarter, Humphries had 5 targets in that game. 4 of them were in the 4th quarter from Jameis. So I don't know if that was just crunch time, just the way everything kind of panned out. But yeah, like Jameis might have someone he likes there, and you get the tiny little percent chance that he runs one back for a touchdown because he also returns punts. So sign me up there. And then tight end, as we do every single week, this is a really, really crappy position, man. It's just really crappy. I think there's only a handful of places to go. It's Zach Ertz and George Kittle. I don't really have a preference on either one of these guys. To me, they're basically the same. Ertz might be a little lower owned because he had a really bad, laid an egg last week. Kittle's going to be super popular. He's going to be stacked with Nick Mullins a lot, and he's in a high total game. Couldn't go wrong for either one of these guys. If I knew definitively what their ownership was going to be, I could make better decisions. But plug and play either one of them. Then I'm not really touching anybody. I don't want Gronk. I don't want OJ Howard's out for the year. None of these other guys until you basically get down to Cameron Brate. So Brate is now going to inherit all of those targets from OJ Howard being out. Again, no surprise. We're talking more about Tampa Bay Bucks. When there's only 10 games on the slate, we're picking and choosing our situations, and we're just laser focused on this. So that's what I'm going with. It is Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys. Listen, not to be too corny, I am thankful for everyone who follows along and allows me to do this. I really enjoy it every single week. Let me know what you're thankful for in the comments below, or tweet me. It's at DFS on demand. Tweet me or leave a comment. I'll talk to you guys soon. Good luck. Don't eat too much turkey. See ya.